Welcome. We'll start with the analysis for Kurukshetra April edition. Now this talks about the agriculture and the allied sectors. In the next issue, we would be discussing about technology for rural development. So let's first start with agriculture and allied sector. Now if we talk about the allied sector, we understand that along with the agriculture, we talk about the various activities which are engaged as farm activities and non-farm activities. So it could be poultry, it could be silk culture, it could be apiculture. So all those are kind of marine culture, fish culture. So all those are allied activities under agriculture that we would talk about today. In India, let's talk about milk production for example. India stands number 1 in milk production in the world, and nearly 19% of the world's total milk production occurs from India. Again, you have recently a dairy infrastructure development fund that has been established. So those are some of the activities that occur in the field of milk production. The next is fisheries. So we have the National Fisheries Development Board. Then for the sericulture or silk rearing, we have an employment generation at nearly 11 man days per kg of raw silk production that could be seen. For the first time in this 2018 budget, we had the Operation Greens. Now this is something that we have been discussing off and on. Now Operation Greens, the idea was focusing on top, that is tomatoes, onion and potatoes, and to look onto the variation or the price fluctuations, and that should not affect the farmers. So that was the key idea under Operation Greens. So farmers should get the right price for the produce that they are doing. The next is the production and growth of the allied sectors. Now over the period from 1950s till present, we have seen that the production of cereals have increased nearly 6 times and the pulses has increased nearly 3 times. India has emerged as the second largest fruit producer and vegetable producer, next only to China. India occupies first position in some of the fruits. Now this is important, the ranking of India. So India ranks first in the production of mango, banana, sapota, pomegranate, alona, and then you have vegetables like peas and okra or ladyfinger. So those are some of the important highlights. Now this could be a kind of direct question, in which of the fruit or vegetable India does not have the first ranking. So you must know the names, those are important. Again, India is amongst the 15 leading exporters of agricultural production. We have over the time period witnessed many kind of revolutions. So green revolution related to crop production, then you have white revolution related to milk production, so on and so forth. Now we are moving to a concept of evergreen revolution from a green revolution, where we talk about sustainable development and a kind of overall improvement. There have been various schemes that have been coming up to enhance the agricultural productivity in India. For example, soil health card. Now this was a question already for your last prelims examination. So by soil health card, what we do is we understand the quality of the soil and we try to improve the quality of the soil. Then you have Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, that's Har Khet Ko Pani and more crop per drop. So basically increasing or enhancing the irrigation facilities even in the remote areas is the focus. Then we are moving forward with Govt scheme that has been released in this budget, that talks about using the compost for bioenergy or biogas production. We also are moving towards biofertilizers and biopesticides. Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana is very important. It focuses on organic farming. So when we are talking about organic farming, under this scheme there is a group of minimum 50 farmers with not less than 50 acres of land that they are considering, and for enrolling in this scheme, a total sum that is being provided is nearly 20,000 per acre by the government. This is utilized for the various agricultural inputs and transportation to the market. Similarly, we have Fasal Bima Yojana for crop insurance. Then we already talked about Operation Greens. We also know that we are working towards doubling the farmers' income by 2022. That's our target. So when we talk about doubling the income by 2022, our focus is moving from the core agriculture to the allied activities, bringing in the facilities of cold storage and integrated chain management. So those are some of the other basically building up the agriculture agricultural infrastructure. So for that you have the agri market infrastructure that has come up with a corpus of nearly 2000 crore. Now under the allied sectors, we have the various growth that has been registered. For agricultural sector, we have three basic aspects of growth. First is to promote a kind of inclusive growth, to improve the rural income, and finally to work for a sustainable food security. So those are the things that we are working around for the agricultural sector. Similarly, we have been working for forestry, fishery, livestock management. So all this agriculture and allied activities together account for nearly 14.6% of the GDP in 2010, and that's a significant feature or a significant value that we have. Now coming on to the separate sections. So horticulture, we have already discussed India's first ranking in various in the production of various crops. Then the overall ranking of India in the production of fruits and vegetables. Animal husbandry, definitely we have a huge livestock base, and we are working towards a kind of GDP growth rate for fishery which contributes to 1% of the GDP, and 5% from agriculture, forestry and fishery in 2015. Livestock also aims to provide a source of regular employment to nearly 11 million people and subsidiary employment to nearly 9 million people, and it contributes nearly 16% of the income for small farm households. So for livestock, we can say it serves for the purpose of food, social security, employment generation, income generation, management of the dung. Then you have fisheries. We have seen a 11-fold increase in the production of fisheries in the last 6 decades or the last 60 years. And there are various species that we have here. Those are being considered for the crab species and have a kind of potential that could be seen. So we have all these lists in the handout. So we'll be you can refer those for the details. We won't be going through each of the species, but yes, you must know few major species. You can also support your answers for the same. Now forestry, India is the 10th most forest rich country in the world. The other countries being Russia, Brazil, Canada, America, China, Congo, Australia, Indonesia and Sudan. So these 10 nations are really important. India and these countries together constitute nearly 67% of the total forest area across the world. In India, we have a current forest cover of nearly 24.5%, which we are considering to increase to 33%, that is 1/3 of our total land should be covered under forest area. Now again, we are working for in enhancing the productivity. So you have sawmills that are coming up, inexpensive labor that is there, imported logs are taken into trade market. Then we have unprocessed wood which is coming as import from Malaysia, Myanmar, China and New Zealand. Again, China and Malaysia account for 60% of the imported furniture market in India. So that's a huge figure that we have. Again, India is the 3rd largest hardwood log importer. So despite the forest cover that we have, we are still importing a lot of hardwood, and we need to work around this situation. Now coming on to the next is dairy development. Dairy, as we said, is one of the major sectors. Recently in 2012, you had the 19th livestock census that took place, which talked about nearly 37% of the livestock population occurs mainly as cattle in India. Now we do have a lot of indigenous variety of cattle. These are mainly heat tolerant, they are resistant to various diseases, they require very less maintenance and have a higher feed conversion efficiency. So those are some of the characteristics of the indigenous varieties that we have. Then we talk about increasing the per capita availability of milk, and India remains the largest producer of milk in the world. The average milk productivity and production per lactation of the cow should be increased. So those are the two focuses that we are working on. First is to increase the average milk productivity, and second is to improve the production per lactation of the cow. The next is National Dairy Development Board, as we said, plays an important role. It was founded in 1965 and aims to transform the dairy sector in India. Now we also have some of the foreign breeds that are available in India, that's mainly for the cross breeding, so that our indigenous breed could improve in the quality. Those are Holstein Friesian, Jersey, Brown Swiss. So these are basically breeded with the Indian or the indigenous breeds in India. Then we have Operation Flood program that was released. It was released in 3 phases. The first phase was from 70s to 80s and was linked to 4 metropolitans. The second phase talked about increasing the village cooperatives, and the third phase talked about increasing the production of milk. So those were the 3 phases under Operation Flood. The next is the various challenges and the strategies for dairy development. So we have to prioritize on the breed, genetically improve the breed, bring in animal genetics and breeding. So that is being done at Karnal, NDRI. So important question could be, where is NDRI located? So it's located in Karnal. The next is the shortage of germplasm and breeding bulls, that should be checked on. We aim to establish more bull mother farms for cross breeding and to make a kind of superior quality male germplasm by 2022. We have various schemes for the dairy. Those are the National Program for Bovine Breeding. Then you have Dairy Development National Program, Rashtriya Gokul Mission, National Mission for Bovine Productivity, and Central Cattle Development Organization. Again, as we talked about, the National Dairy Development Board located in Anand, Gujarat, has initiated dairy development plan in 2 phases, phase 1 and 2. Then you have the adaptation of multiple ovulation and embryo transfer technology, which is also known as MOET technology. And here you have a kind of milk yield that is being increased by sectional differential and intensity of selection that is taken into place. Then you have genomic selection of the indigenous breed. Now this develops the high quality DNA based chips for genomic selection, mainly for the Sahiwal and the Gir breeds of the cattle. Then we also talk about the acute shortage for the feed and fodder, mainly for the Barsim and the oat. So those are the 2 mini kits for the fodder quality that are being provided during the Rabi season. Then you have various metabolic disorders that are seen, and finally we talk about the various schemes. So you have the Livestock Health and Disease Control Scheme, which is a centrally sponsored scheme and works under 4 components. So it talks about assistance to the states, National Program for Rinderpest, Professional Efficiency, and Foot and Mouth Disease Control Program. So foot and mouth disease is again important. We have discussed it in one of the expected classes. So these are the 4 components under which you have the Livestock Health Disease and Control Program. Similarly, you have various other control programs for disease reporting, strengthening the veterinary hospitals and dispensaries, developing dairy entrepreneurs, and bringing in more extension programs. What have been the economic perspectives or the economic prospects for the dairy development? So definitely cow milk should get a remunerative price, dairying should be increased and promoted with organic farming. Then we are also focusing on A2 brand milk. Now A2 brand milk is a kind of better quality milk that is being provided, and we are considering milk as a functional dairy food. So those were the aspects under dairy. The next is Blue Revolution. So under Blue Revolution we say India ranks 3rd in fish production and 2nd in aquaculture. Blue Revolution is also known as Neel Kranti, where we are talking about enhancing the production of fishes and opening fisheries as a new venue for the farmers. There have been various biotechnology interventions that we have seen, for example nanotechnology. Then you have biotechnological interventions for bioremediation and probiotics. You also have mariculture that talks about synthetic hormone for breeding transgenic fishes. You have gene probes and polymerase chain reaction that is being seen. The next is information technology interventions. So here you have sonar, that is application of sonar, that is sound navigation and ranging. Then you have locating of the fish by GPS. For navigation purposes and depth analysis, you have echo sounders. So those are some of the techniques we are using to understand the ocean topography or the bottom of the ocean surfaces, and then work around the best fishery resources that we could work around. Now these are some of the characteristics that we have been working around. The satellite NOAA-8 carries special sensors or SARSAT, which is search and rescue satellite tracking. Then you have radar altimeter that measures the wave height. You have synthetic aperture radar that measures the length of the wave. Then you have scratometer that measures the surface wind. Various weather reports that talk about the various weather phenomena, and finally we can identify potential fishing zones. So those all techniques are useful to identify the potential fishing zones, which are based on the amount of chlorophyll concentration in the water and the sea surface concentration. Application of GIS is again very important to understand the best areas for fishing. Similarly, we are also now using GPS for geolocation on the earth on a real-time basis for GIS. It also helps in field mapping and providing a kind of survey vessel exploration for fishery activities. Similarly, engineering activities are also involved. These includes motorized, non-motorized and mechanized fishing vessels, talking about feed mills, hatcheries and manufacturing of various quality gear materials. Along with this, we are talking about a new national policy for marine fisheries that was proposed in April 2017. This has been undertaken by National Fisheries Development Board with an outlay of nearly 3,000 crores, and this policy would cover the various features as using IT and space, strengthening the system by introduction of chip-based registration cards for fishermen, maximizing the fleet size, mainstreaming the biodiversity conservation, giving a detailed national fishery action plan for 2020 for the next 5 years to talk about enhancing the fish production, diversification, selective breeding and genetic improvement. So those are the focus areas for fishery improvement under the recent scheme. Similar to that, for development of the agriculture, we have organic farming that is being taken into consideration under the Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana. So you have the International Federation of Organic Agricultural Movements, which is basically an international organization that regulates the standards for the organic farming that is taken into consideration. And under organic farming, we consider the following aspects. It's biological farming, nature farming, regenerative farming. Then you have the alternate agriculture, permaculture and so on. Now, if we talk about the aims of organic farming, this is very important for a kind of essay type question or a long answer question. So, with organic farming, we are trying to reduce the amount of pesticides and fertilizers. We are working with biofertilizers, pesticides. We are also talking about more nutritious food, more balanced environment. Cow dung, if released into atmosphere, produces a lot of methane, which acts as a greenhouse gas. So that could be again reduced by use of bioslurry. So those are some of the management techniques that we talk about. We also work around soil and water conservation. Drought resistant legumes should be grown, and very important thing is nitrate leaching is low in organic systems and therefore ground pollution can be prevented. Similarly, to consider this, you have Women Farmers Day that is celebrated on 15th October. So those are some of the benefits of organic farming, but definitely it has its own limitations. The yields are typically low, the cost of production is high, the market price that comes up is pretty higher, and the marketing facilities are less, shelf life is decreased. Some of the advantages of the organic farming from different areas, environmental, economic, social and health and nutrition perspective have been covered here. So these are again important, you must go through this. There have been various organizations that are associated with organic farming, like in Gangtok you have the National Organic Farming Research Institute. Sikkim has also been named as the first organic state in India. In Ghaziabad, you have the National Center for Organic Farming, which has 6 other regional centers that could be seen. So, the benefits, the direct benefits and the indirect benefits of organic farming are given here. As I said, organic farming is very important for you, not only for your GS paper, but very important, extremely important for those who are appearing with agriculture or geography optional as one of their papers. Now, apiculture. Apiculture, where we talk about honey breeding or honey rearing, is basically starts back to nearly 7000 BC, and it's a kind of age-old industry where the main focus is beeswax production of honey along with pollination of crops. So there are various crops that have been taken into consideration. India is one of the honey exporter countries in the world. The major market for Indian honey is mainly Germany, America, UK, Japan, France, Italy and Spain. So that's the kind of production from the various states in India. The various types of honey bees are given here, the various species and their common name. The management is important. Now plants whose flowers are a source of nectar for the beehives, then the plants which provide pollen grains, and the plants whose flowers are a source of nectar and pollen both. So we have a list of these. Not directly it could be a question, but yes, for agriculture students this is a very important section that you must go through. Now how can apiculture increase income of the farmers? So recently we have the sweet revolution concept where we talk about increasing the production of honey, similar to the green revolution where we talked about increasing the production of crops. So with sweet revolution we are talking about increasing the crop production, increasing the honey production, giving honey a better prices and diversification of apiary products that could be seen. This started with All India Khadi and Village Industries Board in 1954, and then you have All India Coordinated Research Program that was taken place for honeybee research and training in India and development of various agricultural university. You also have Integrated Bee Development Center program that has been seen in 2 different phases. So those are some of the major efforts that we see. Now coming on to silk or sericulture. Sericulture is an important economic activity again for the rural areas and a kind of allied agricultural activity. Silk is also known as the queen of textiles. It provides very high employment, low capital investment, and is a kind of very remunerative job. It creates nearly 60 lakh man days of employment every year in rural sector, and therefore is a very important constituent of the rural India. Now sericulture, you have mulberry regions and non-mulberry regions. So the states which have mulberry silk are Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Jammu Kashmir and West Bengal. On the other hand, Jharkhand, Odisha, Chhattisgarh and Northeast have non-mulberry silk. Commercial silk comes under 5 varieties. It's mulberry, tropical tussar, oak tussar, eri and muga. So those are the 5 varieties of silk that are commonly seen in India. Now the annual silk production is given by the Central Silk Board that publishes the annual production of silk. This Central Silk Board is a statutory body established in 1948 by the Parliament, headquartered in Bangalore, and works on 4 different components. That's research and development, seed organization, coordination and market activities, and quality certification. However, the export of silk from India is having some major challenges. Those are the decrease in the demand, the increase in the pricing structure, increase in the competition from the artificial or blended silk or the synthetic fiber, then the changing fashion trend mainly in Europe and America are affecting the export of silk from India. However, the silk farmers also are facing some challenges. For example, failure of the mulberry crop, or you have the biosecurity measures, the pest issues, the health risk associated with the farmers who manage the silkworm shed. So those are some of the important issues or problems related to rearing or breeding of mulberry, basically the silkworms on mulberry in India. Then you have Operation Greens that we have already discussed. Now Operation Greens aims to focus on some of the problems that are being associated with the agricultural sector, mainly as illiteracy, scarcity of capital, fragmentation of land holdings, lack of irrigation facilities, lack of mechanization. Now what are the solutions? Working around the issue of illiteracy, making people more literate, removing the problem of fragmented land. So you have Chakbandi that is being enacted in Punjab, Haryana and parts of Uttar Pradesh. Providing financial assistance as Kisan Credit Card, interest assistance schemes, investment loans schemes. Then you have the various projects or initiatives by government like DD Kisan, which is a TV channel. Then you have Kisan call centers, Kisan Mela, Krishi Mela that are being organized. Then the two main issues where farmer suicide usually take place is because of loan waivers and increase in the minimum support price. So those are the two issues that farmers usually fight around. Now coming on to some of the schemes, so you have the Indian Emergence campaign through the Village Emergence. It aims to provide livelihood mainly in the rural areas and strengthen the panchayat system. So we also talked about Operation Greens in lines of Operation Flood. There are 4-point action plan that we are working around, that is giving farmers good income or good remuneration, increasing the productivity by using better technologies, reforming the land policy where the fragmentation of the land holdings could be removed, and providing capital support to the farmers. Along with that, we have the formation of National Agricultural Market, that's ENAM, where we have been uniting the various mandis in a common platform. We are working towards revamping the transportation, storage and marketing facilities, modernizing the agriculture along with milk production. Govt scheme, we have already discussed how this is important, and this is expected to bring out more developments into the Indian sector. Cow dung or cattle dung is one of the major features in India, where you have a cattle population of nearly 300 million that is being seen, and of this 70% nearly resides in rural areas, the cattle population, which generates nearly 9 to 15 kilograms of cow dung every day. Now this is being utilized, as we say, if it is being removed into the atmosphere, it would lead to methane into the atmosphere, which is again a greenhouse gas. Compost from earthworm is using that compost is known as vermicomposting, and the worm cast that is being released by earthworms or other worms is known as black gold. So vermicomposting basically contains 5 times of available nitrogen, 7 times of potash and 1.5 times more calcium than what is found in a good quality topsoil. So this is important, vermicomposting and the benefits from the nitrogen, potash and calcium. Now as we said, methane and carbon dioxide are the main constituents of the fermentation of the cow dung that remains or the organic fertilizer that remains. So you have Gram Vikas Trust that started Gobar Bank initiative in Surat, Gujarat, where people can bring in fresh cow dung to the community biogas plant, and working around biogas is one of the major issues. Similarly, you have biogas slurry, which would convert the animal dung into a slurry, which is a good quality manure. In this process, it would use the methane that is being released, and animal urine would be added, so more nitrogen is added to the slurry, which speeds up the compost making process. Those are some of the important developments here. Coming on to the horticulture sector, as we already talked about India's position in some of the top crops and vegetables that we have seen, you have a national horticulture mission that was launched in 2005 and 6, which is a kind of centrally sponsored scheme for a holistic development of horticulture sector. We also talk about Dairy Processing and Infrastructure Development Board that is being established, and we are emphasizing mainly on the post-harvest technology or post-harvest handling. So you have Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sampada Yojana for integrated cold chain and value addition infrastructure. As we said, after the production, post-harvest management is a major issue and the crop should not go waste. So you have a cold chain storage and a value addition infrastructure that is being integrated. As of 2016-17, we have 4 new mega food parks and 29 cold chain projects that have been started. So development of technology, under that we also have Chaman, that is coordinated horticulture assessment and management using geoinformatics. So here is where we are bringing in satellite and remote sensing technology for better forecasting of the area and better production. Also we are implementing a Delhi based Mahalanobis model for National Crop Forecast Center that would be completed by March. So high production of the crops is important. Now some of the major areas, so Karnal is known for vegetables, Dapoli in Maharashtra for mangoes, citrus fruit in Nagpur, Maharashtra, then you have pomegranates in Bassi, Rajasthan. So those are some of the key areas where we are talking about. Some of the issues that we need to address are the quality of the material, the density of the planting material, the technology that we are putting in. So Spain is one of the leaders in the protected cultivation with nearly 60,000 hectares of area under polyhouses and greenhouses. So we should also learn from those nations. So some of the world examples are being quoted here. Similarly, you have Indo-Israel Center for Excellence in Vegetable that is being established in Garaunda in Karnal, Haryana. We are also talking about online national agricultural market, that's the ENAM facility. We are talking about a sensor based irrigation network where based on the requirement the irrigation would be provided to the crops. Integrated disease and pest management strategy. The next comes is floriculture. Worldwide there are nearly 140 nations that are involved in floriculture. The leading flower production countries in the world are Netherlands, Germany, which are the biggest importers of the flower. So floriculture in India is mainly seen in Karnataka. Then you have APEDA, that's the Agricultural and Processed Food Exports Development Authority, that talks about export promotion and development of floriculture. Floriculture or flower production is related to various economic activities like earning foreign currency, perfume industry, commercial use. Then we are also importing. Some of the nations which are importers of flowers are America, Japan, Germany, France, Italy and Holland. Israel is one of the biggest growers of the flowers by using modern technology. India, as we already said, Karnataka is the leading producer. So there have been various government programs like integrated development of commercial floriculture, which aims to improve the production of the traditional and the conventional basically productivity of the flowers and floriculture. Case study that has been given here is the Rithu Nestham Foundation. This acts as a kind of harbinger for agricultural production, mainly working in the states of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh and focusing on three aspects: Rithu Nestham, Pashu and Prakriti. So it's basically related to crop, animal and organic farming. So these are the three functions that it has been doing. Similar to it, you have various other organizations like Living Greens in Jaipur, iKheti in Mumbai, Khetify from Delhi and so on. So those are the important institutions that have been working as the startups in this section and must be considered. Coming on to vaccination in India, Prime Minister launched the intensified mission for Indradhanush, that's focusing on selected districts and states which are showing very less progress. The under 5 mortality rate is nearly 43 per 1000 live births. Then you have an infant mortality rate of 34 per 1000 live births and neonatal under 1 at 25. So those figures need to be brought down. Vaccinations are basically for prevention of certain diseases like pneumonia and diarrhea are the leading killers under 5 in India. So you have the universal immunization program that started in 1985. There were 7 vaccines in 2014 that were part of Mission Indradhanush. In 2016, rotavirus was introduced. Then in 2018, you had measles rubella MR vaccine that was also introduced. In 2015, later on 2016, you had inactivated polio vaccine that was introduced. So far, the polio vaccine was oral or as drops, and now it would be inactivated as injections. So you also have electronic vaccine intelligence network that gives a complete information on the vaccines that are being available at each hospitals. Those would be geomapped and coded, and alerts would be sent to relevant authority if the stock decreases or is not consumed in the required amount. We are also working towards meeting the deadlines. So we had a deadline for elimination of maternal and neonatal tetanus in December 2015, but we met the deadline much before in April itself. So those are the kind of programs or workarounds that we are doing. Some other important things that have been discussed are the Blue Revolution. So we have already talked about how the National Fisheries Action Plan 2020 has come up for next 5 years to enhance fish production. That's important. And we had the Swachh Shakti 2018 that was celebrated on International Women's Day. We'll be covering Yojana and Kurukshetra every month, so stay tuned, do subscribe. If you have any doubts, leave those as comment. Have a very good day ahead.